This is very interesting. So look, boomers remain wealthiest generation. I mean, yeah, the boomers are the wealthiest generation in America as of today, 2021. I mean, 2022. I'm tripping. Today, the silent generation, whose youngest members are 70 years old, still command nearly 24 trillion in wealth, a probable result of good savings habits. But there is another empirical explanation for their considerable assets. A large number of silent generation members, 29 million as of 2014, are still alive. Yeah, my dad, he 80 years old. I'm 29. Old, nasty ass nigga heavy at an old age. Social Security Administration data indicates that an individual's probability of dying in a given year crosses 4% only once he or she reaches 78 years of age, rising swiftly thereafter. Similarly, baby boomers, especially younger boomers, will remain prime financial services consumers at least until 2030, because even then their age will span from 66 to 84 years, and nearly 60 million will still be alive. With their sheer numbers and current high base of wealth, they are likely to remain at the top of the generational wealth rankings. Gen Xers will, however, climb up the wealth scale quickly as they enter their prime earning years. Increasing incomes and savings will help them amass a net worth of 37 trillion in 2030. Sheesh. And they will be poised to overtake baby boomers as America's wealthiest generation soon thereafter. Millennials will rapidly increase their wealth as a group, with growing numbers joining the workforce, forming households, and accumulating savings. However, given their current low base of wealth, millennials' average wealth will remain far below boomers and Gen Xers. Yeah, 'cause they got a lot of damn Gen X that's going into the damn workforce and shit. It's a whole bunch of them. Y'all just having kids up out here. Then the millennials, me, my girl, shit, trying to figure out life, save, accomplish goals, businesses, and all that. Damn, they're already thinking about retirement and coming up with trust funds and whatnot. This is interesting, though. If y'all want to read this, though, it's, you can type in Future Wealth in America Master and then put PDF by Deloitte. I think that's how they pronounce it, Deloitte. One of them top dog companies. Gen Xers to witness greatest increase in financial assets. Households' financial assets in the United States are forecast to grow from 35 trillion in 2015 to nearly 64 trillion by 2030, a compound annual growth rate of 4.1%. So baby boomers is the light blue one. Gen X, what color is that? The light. So they the one where 10,000 is at. Millennials. That's very interesting. Makes me start to wonder about my generation. What is a lot of us doing? I don't think a lot of people in my generation getting into really any industry. It's starting to make me think that. Because when I look into my generation, I see a lot of people doing Airbnb. They doing credit repair. They doing Turo. And it's kind of just wasted money because all of them are just flashing and buying fancy cars and shit. And nobody's like thinking to be the next Turo, the next Airbnb, and be innovative in this industry. That's crazy that our chart is like that. Yet you would think like seeing a lot, I thought a lot of things was changing in my generation. That's crazy though. I think that's probably why it's different. Because when I look at things like that, like I'm over here thinking probably with the Gen X. I think that's probably what it is, but whatever. That's crazy. The growth in financial assets for each generation, where is that? will be driven by three important factors: personal savings, which will drive the acquisition of new financial assets; portfolio returns, which will affect the value of existing pools of financial assets; drawdowns, which reflect the spending down of assets in retirement. In the forecast model, we have assumed that these will equal 4% of financial assets each year. Baby boomers' financial assets will peak in nearly 26 million trillion in 2029, rising from over 17 trillion in 2015. It is important to note that while the oldest boomer crossed the 65-year-old threshold in 2011, the youngest boomer will only reach that age in 2029. Younger boomers, high-earning members of the workforce today, will continue to accumulate significant financial assets until retirement. However, starting in 2030, boomers' financial assets will gradually taper off as higher death rates and asset decumulation take their toll. Ooh, I never heard that word, but I understood it when I seen it, and that's crazy. See, this is why I'm learning dead ass. I'm gonna have to keep some of this shit private because I don't want people stealing my skills. I got some gems for people that join my community though, dead ass. But there's a way to protect asset decumulation and taxes, especially if you die. Because looking at death rates from what they're saying, ooh, that's interesting. Anyway, similarly for the silent generation, a progressively higher death rate and continued decumulation in retirement will eclipse the returns earned by financial assets, which will decline from over 11 trillion today to about 4.6 trillion in 2030. That is crazy. That's crazy. For Gen Xers and Millennials, the story is diametrically opposite. Gen Xers are joining younger boomers as the highest earning members of the workforce. Their financial assets will grow to 22 trillion by 2030, a compound annual growth rate of over 11%, largely reflecting their need to build nest eggs for retirement. Millennials' wealth is expected to benefit from potential increases in their labor force participation rate, as well as from increasing salaries as older millennials are promoted to higher paying jobs. As a result, millennials' financial assets are projected to grow from 1.4 trillion in 2015 to 11.3 trillion in 2030, a compound annual growth rate of nearly 15%. What's interesting though is how where'd it go? Wait. Where is it? Because up here, for the silent generation, eclipse return, which will decline from over 11 trillion today to about 4.6 trillion. That's going to go down for that generation. It started to make me think, why though? Like, that's interesting. Somebody ain't doing something right when they passing shit down, unless that's Social Security, because you can't pass Social Security on after you die. Well, in certain cases you can't. But plus, if a person is a beneficiary on somebody's Social Security, they don't really get that much anyway, as much as the person was getting. That's crazy. Millennials and benefit from potential workforce as well as increasing salaries, doing higher paying jobs. As a result, millennials' financial assets are projected to grow from 1.4 trillion 2015 to 11.3 trillion in 2030, a compound annual growth rate of 15%. Home ownership will continue to dominate non-financial assets. Home ownership has been a central pillar of the American dream. No wonder residential property alone constitutes nearly 58% of non-financial assets on household balance sheets in the United States. Business equity and automobiles account for most of the rest. New investments in residential property and the appreciation of home prices are therefore central to our model's forecast of non-financial assets, excuse me, which which are projected to grow from about 52 trillion in 2015 to nearly 77 trillion by 2030. What is that CAGR? Sounds like something annual growth rate of 2.7%. What does CARG stand for though? It's not the same. What does CARG stand for? This growth rate is lower than, or that could be a calculated annual growth rate, of 2.7%. This growth rate is lower than that of financial assets because home price increases are expected to be lower than returns on financial assets. Slowing population growth will be a major factor affecting house prices in the future. There is currently a significant surplus of housing in the United States. A short housing boom fueled by a stronger economy and a pickup in household formation are expected to exhaust some of this supply. However, once pent-up demand is satisfied, home prices may remain subdued, although select sectors such as housing for the elderly may thrive. One or more striking differences among the generation is their level of investment in residential property. What's generational? All of them. Is there a level of investment in residential properties? Gen Xers are currently the most active home buyers, comprising 32% of purchases by value, but they are closely followed by boomers and millennials. Members of the silent generation understandably trail far behind at 9%. Predictably, as the generation age, the share of home purchases by older cohorts will progressively drop. Interesting. Household leverage to fall as country ages. U.S. household debt is projected to grow at a slower pace than assets, from 14.4 trillion in 2015 to over 20.5 trillion in 2030. A calculated annual growth rate of 2.4%. Where's figure 10 at? Oh, it's down. Reducing the debt to asset ratio of American households from 17% in 2015 to 14.6% in 2030. According to the survey of consumer finances, 85% of household debt is tied to residential property, a pattern consistent across age groups and one that confirms the cultural importance of home ownership in the United States. Our forecast model uses the strong historical relationship to forecast debt. Y'all can go read this if y'all want to.